Hello, Professor Christopher. This is Megan Cipolla, and this is my Project 7. And my directorial statement is The Tempest is a play about abusing the knowledge of power. And so when I was deciding where to place The Tempest, I thought Australia. And I thought Australia for a variety of reasons. One of them was that it was a British penal colony in the 1840s. And so I thought it was perfect that they send their prisoners there and that Prospero would be exiled there. Another reason is Australia's landscape is very, very vast. You can be in the outback, you can be in the mountain ranges, you can then be at the ocean, and they're all vastly different and they all bring different things, and I thought that was amazing, and so that was another reason. And then another was because they had just gone through the Australian bushfires and a lot had been destroyed, and I thought that was perfect to incorporate in my set design because Prospero destroys a lot of this island until the very end. And so going into Ariel's costuming, and so at first I was going to do this red bodysuit with this Aboriginal art and with aspects of the rainbow serpent. And the rainbow serpent, because it represents God in the Aboriginal culture and it can create and destroy, and I thought that was perfect for Ariel. So this was one of my first renderings and I really didn't like how it ended up. But this was my final rendering, and I decided to add this train on, and Ariel doesn't have shoes because Ariel's one with this island, but there's a rainbow serpent there and a rainbow serpent there, and I felt this is great. I felt the train is also detachable, so that way it can come off and come on in between scenes, depending on what scene calls for it. It would also add another aspect, another layer of clothing. And so I also went with a darker red on the bodysuit because it looked better. It also just felt that it exuded that passion of wanting to make sure things are right. So headed into Prospero's costume, I first saw this photo and I was like, this is great. The pants are great. Exactly what I want. And then as I continued researching, I found that I wanted something more like this. Prospero is no longer a duke. He does not have his dukedom. And that is something to note because they even state that even though that he does have nice clothes on the island, you don't see it till the very end. This was what I found inspiring for his cloak, that I did want to change the color on it. And so with all of that came to this costume rendering. And so Prospero is very plain, but on the cloak I decided to include this pendant to pay homage to his once dukedom, but in his face he is very much old and weathered from abusing this island and him merely being demoted to a peasant. And so now moving into my set, this was my original scenic design, and I'm very happy to say I think I was able to recreate it in my concept models. So this is Act 1, Scene 2. This one is Act 3, Scene 1, and this is Act 3, Scene 3. And so coming here, some of the aspects that got added later on was actually having these lights light up. These rocks light up. I didn't think that was possible before, but I played around with it and the LED lights that I have underneath them. I knew in my scenic sketch, I had this vibrant cage underneath this tree that Prospero could climb in and be present in. And I was able to make that happen with some modeling clay. And so an LED light is back there and these are chains. And so that was an aspect I was really happy with. In this scene, I again played with the rock formations present in Australia. This was taken from one of the photos. And this was representative of Ferdinand's sail, and there over here was the rocks, the logs that he was moving before Miranda came around. And then this scene is the scene where it's the food table, but I thought I'd make it very plain, representative almost of the Australian outback present. And so then with playing with the lighting, this is my light key in terms of what was permanent in the scene, what filters I was going to use. I ended up using these Salon's lighting filters, and knowing my directorial statement, always going back to that and understanding that Prospero has abused this island. It's not healthy in the slightest, and so playing with colors and making the island look sickly was my intention with the lighting and these concept models. Thank you. Thank you. Tempest, Act 1, Scene 2. Come away, servant, come. I am ready now. Approach, my Ariel, come. All hail, great master, grave sir, hail. I come to answer thy best pleasure, be it to fly, to swim, to dive into the fire, to ride on the curled clouds, to thy strong bidding task, Ariel in all his qualities. Hast thou, spirit, performed to the point the tempest that I bade thee? To every article, I boarded the king's ship, now on the beak, now in the waist, the deck, in every cabin. I flamed amazement. Sometime I divide and burn in many places. On the topmast, the yards and bowsprit would I flame distinctly. Then meet and join Jove's lightning, the persecutors. O thou dreadful thunderclaps more momentary, and slight outrunning were not. The fire and cracks a sulphurous roaring, the most mighty Neptune seemed to besiege and make his bold waves tremble. Ye his dead trident shake. My brave spirit, who was so firm, so constant that this coil would not infect his reason. Not a soul, but felt a fever of the mad and played some tricks of desperation. All but mariners plunged in the foaming brine and quit the vessel. Then all fire with me, the king's son Ferdinand, with hair up staring, then like reeds, not hair, was the first man that leaped, cried, Hell is empty and all the devils are here. Why, that's my spirit. But was not this nigh shore? Close by, my master. But are they, Ariel, safe? Not a hair perished, on their sustaining garments not a blemish, but fresher than before. And as thou badest me, in troops I have dispersed them bout the isle. The king's son have I landed by himself, whom I left cooling of the air with sighs, in an odd angle of the isle, and sitting, his arms in the sad knot. The Tempest, Act 3, Scene 1. Alas now, pray you, work not so hard. I would the lightning had burnt up those logs that are enjoyed to pile. Pray set it down and rest you when this burns. 'Twill weep for having wearied you, my father is hard at study. Pray now rest yourself, he's safe for these 3 hours. O most dear mistress, the sun will set before I shall discharge what I must strive to do. If you'll sit down, I'll bear your logs the while. Pray, give me that. I'll carry it to the pile. No, precious creature, I'd rather crack my snooze, break my back, than you should dishonor undergo while I sit lazy by. It would become me as well as it does you, and I should do it, which much more ease, for my good will is to it, and yours is against it. Poor worm, thou art infected. This visitation shows it. You look wearily. No, noble mistress, 'tis fresh morning with me. When you are by at night, I do beseech you, chiefly that I might set it in my prayers. What is your name? Miranda. Oh, my father, I have broke your hest to say so. Admired Miranda. Indeed, the top of admiration worth. What's dearest to the world? Full many a lady I have eyed with best regard in many a time. To harmony of their tongues hath into bondage brought my too diligent ear. For several virtues have I liked several women, never any with full soul, but some defect in her. Did quarrel with the noblest grace she owed, and put it into the foil. But you, oh you, so perfect and so peerless, are created of every creature's best. I do not know one in my sex, no woman's face remember, save from my glass mine own, nor have I seen more that I may call men than you, good friend, my dear father. How features are abroad, I am skillless of, but by my modesty, the jewel in my dower, I would not wish any companion in the world but you, nor can imagination from a shape besides yourself to the like of, but I prattle something too wildly in my father's precepts, I therein do forget. I am in my condition a prince, Miranda, I do think a king. I would not so, and would no more endure this wooden slavery than to suffer the flesh fly below my mouth. Hear my soul speak. The very instant that I saw you did my heart fly to your service. There resides to make me slave to it, and for your sake am I this patient log man. Do you love me? O heaven, O earth, bear witness to this sound, and crown what I profess with kind event. If I speak truth, if hollowy invert, what best is boded me to mischief, I, beyond all limit of what else in the world, do love, prize, honor you. The Tempest, Act 3, Scene 3. No matter since they have left their vines behind, for we have stomachs, willing to please you, taste of what is here, not I. Faith, sir, you need not fear. When we were boys, who would believe that they were mountaineers, dwelloped like bulls whose throats had hanging at 'em, wallets of flesh or that there were such men whose heads stood in their breasts, which now we find each putter, out of 5 for 1 will bring us good warrant of. I will stand to and feed, although my last, no matter since I feel, the best is path, brother my lord the duke, stand to and do as we. You are 3 men of sin, whom destiny that hath to instrument this lower world and what is in it, the never surfeited sea hath caused to belch up you. And on this island where men doth not inhabit, you amongst men are most unfit to live. I have made you mad, and even with such like valor men hang and drown their proper selves. You fools! I and my fellows are ministers of fate. The elements of whom your swords are tempered may as well wound the loud winds, or with mocked at stabs kill the still closing waters as diminish. One dow that's in my plume, my fellow ministers are like invulnerable. If you could hurt, your swords are now too massy for your strength and will not be uplifted. But remember, for that's my business to you, that you 3 from Milan to supplant good Prospero, exposed unto the sea which hath requited him and his innocent child, for which foul deed the powers delaying, not forgetting, have incensed the seas and shores, ye all the creatures against your peace, thee of thy son Alonso. They have bereft, and do pronounce by me, lingering prediction, worse than any death can be at once, shall step by step attend you in your ways, whose wrath to guard you from, which here in this most desolate isle else falls upon your heads, is nothing but heart's sorrow and a clear life ensuing.